Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Have we had the Pledge of Allegiance? Or are we waiting for me?
We're just waiting, Clint. Hold on just a second. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Lakeville Rotary, our June 11th, 2020 virtual edition. So as always, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I was going to ask Rachel Marzon, would you do the pleasure of leading us in that this morning?
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Rachel. Clint, would you please lead us in an invocation, please?
Good morning, everybody. We are happy to be together in spirit, if not in body, to share our fellowship with the spirit that guides us, as well as each other, in our service and devotion to our community and our world and our friendship. And we hope that each of us is enjoying breakfast and also the company of their friends and family in this moment. Enjoy the day. The sun is shining for me, at least. I hope it is for you. And be mindful of the interesting and guiding things that we hear in our presentation today. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Clint. Well, like I said, I'd like to welcome everybody this morning. I'd like to acknowledge any guests that we have this morning. District Governor elect Ed Merrick. I don't know if he's still on the line this morning. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, everybody.
Kathy, was there anybody else that we had other than Jason this morning?
No, that's it.
That's it. Well, always good to have everybody here. Just a reminder that we are being recorded, so do need to make that little housekeeping announcement as we get started this morning. Before we get to our program, I have a couple of announcements from Rotary International and also from the district this morning. As most of you are aware, these last couple of weeks, I keep hearing one of the most frequently used phrases I hear is, "We live in interesting times." And certainly the past couple of weeks have been a testament to that. I think we've all seen and experienced the focus on racial justice that's happened not only in our community, but the nation and the world. And as part of that, Rotary International has issued their statement on racism. Ed, just as a point of information, they've had a policy. Is this just an updated version, or is this all brand new?
I'm not really sure. I know this came out, I think, on June 1st, and I think it was in response to
all the
incident and the unrest. And
okay, well, I just was looking for clarification. I didn't want to get ahead of myself here, but I think we had this I think posted on the Club Runner, and it didn't entirely show. So what I thought we'd do, this would be an appropriate time this morning to kind of revisit that. I'm just going to, it's fairly short, but I think it's very, very meaningful. So I think what we'll do is we'll bring it up, and if there's any discussion, we can certainly have that. But it says, at Rotary, we have no tolerance for racism. Promoting respect, celebrating diversity, demanding ethical leadership, and working tirelessly to advance peace are central tenets of our work. We have more work to do to create more just, open, and welcoming communities for all. We know there are no easy fixes, and that challenging conversations and work lie before all of us. Rotary's strength has long been our ability and commitment to bringing people together. We will tap into that strength now as we stand with those who are working for peace and justice. Rotary will do our part to listen, learn, and take action to ensure that we continue to contribute to making positive change. So Ed, I didn't know if you wanted to make any additional comments before you have to dash out, but I thought it was important to get that in front of the membership here this morning.
I appreciate that, Ken. And we have, in response to what was happening in St. Paul, Michael John Peace, who is the president of the St. Paul Club, had reached out to my club, St. Paul Sunrise, given the unrest in St. Paul, to perhaps get together and figure out what we could be responding to, how we could, help what was going on, which started leading to, started a snowball. RI was coming in and 5950, and we all got together. At any rate, we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, I think now. I know Rachel was part of that, and just discussing and where do we go from here? How do we proceed? And started to get some ideas rolling. Well, I sent out, as I mentioned earlier, a letter out to all the district, and I think I've had about 4, 5, 6 people that have responded saying they want to be part of this. So we're going to add those folks to kind of the group that's looking at this and figuring out how we proceed, and just trying to do it in a very intentional, very thoughtful, respectful way, and working our way through this. And it's not going to, it's going to be a long process. I kind of liken it to our work down in Nicaragua, where when we went down there first to work with a community on lifting them up and out of poverty, the word that kept coming up was accompaniment, that we're going to work side by side, walk side by side, and you're going to be you're here for 10, 20 years, and I think it's been over 10 years we've been down there now and making progress, and it takes time. And so welcome anyone else with thoughts, ideas, concerns. Feel free to get them to me. I'd be happy to hear them out and respond. The only other thing I'd like to mention, and this is a selfless promotion, shameless promotion, not selfless, is to invite you all to the upcoming installation. It will be hysteric. It might be hysterical, but it will also be historic in that it will be the first virtual installation this district's ever had. It's June 30th, 7 p.m. I was pushing for 11 p.m. So when it finished up, we would just roll right into the new year. I'd be the district governor and off we go. And all the president-elects would be ready to roll. But I got vetoed on that, so it'll start at 7. Although somewhere in the Atlantic then, it will be our time. It should be a fun evening. We've got some nice things planned, and a nice kickoff to another Rotary year with, as Ken pointed out, which should be interesting times. So with that, good luck, Jason, on your talk. Good to see you. We'll catch up at some point. I got to scoot over to my club meeting, and everyone have a great day.
Thanks, Ed. Appreciate it. And yes, there's always that opportunity for history and hysterics to come together. So we'll see how that all works. Thank you so much. Have a good meeting yourself this morning.
Thank you.
So as Ed said, you should have seen the letter that went out yesterday. If you didn't get it, get back with Kathy or myself. I think it's a great opportunity to be engaged at this time, and also on an important topic. I think my observation is that in situations like this, there's often a sudden surge to want to do something, and I think the bigger picture is we don't want to have a knee-jerk response to a lot of things. So I think having conversation, having a chance to listen, I think basically will basically aid us as we go forward. So again, any comments and input that you'd like to have on that would certainly be welcome. The other quick note I had was from, and Kathy, I don't know if you've got the slide for this or not, from Kyle on the foundation announcement.
I do not.
Okay, that's fine. You probably had a couple of notes in your mailbox from the district foundation leadership, but they've asked that club presidents make the following announcement for this meeting this week. So really quickly, an announcement from our district's Rotary Foundation team. We are in week 2 of our district's push for $400K for giving to the Rotary Foundation's annual fund. We got off to a great start last week. If you've donated to the annual fund, thank you. Your contribution will help make the lives of people better. If you haven't donated, don't worry, there's still time. And that's one of the things with Rotary, there's always time to give more. The deadline for contributions is June 30th, but there's no reason to wait until then. Remember, this is a special opportunity as well. If you give at least $365, the equivalent of $1 a day, some of our current foundation champions will utilize their recognition points to make you a Paul Harris Fellow. For this special push for $400,000 a month, $365 is all it takes to be a Paul Harris Fellow. While there is special recognition at this level, any amount is important, as it's not about the amount of the recognition, but about the impact you and all of us as Rotarians are making. Your donation will help teach kids essential skills, prevent mothers and babies from dying, create peace, treat and prevent disease, provide economic opportunities, and improve clean water and sanitation, all improving the lives for the recipients of your contribution and your projects. Thank you for your gift to the Rotary Foundation Annual Fund this month as you help us push for 400,000K. So there you have it. As I said, I think you should have that. You should have a similar announcement in your mailbox, but we will probably be having announcements like that every week, kind of charting our progress. So with that, we will get to our regular morning announcements. Richard, anything to update us on Taste of Lakeville and the meeting schedule?
Hey, good morning. We will have a meeting following right after our morning meeting this morning, so please connect in for that. Just update the members. We are looking at a few items we can do to salvage Taste of Lakeville for 2020, such as auctions and some wine, alcohol tasting events. Look up possible of a Taste of Lakeville discount card, a few things out there that require the members to get engaged. So today we'll be talking about those and finalizing what those items will be. So we're kind of cutting it off today for looking at the different things, and then we'll be moving forward on that. So kind of a short but important meeting this morning if you want to chime in on some of these things we'll be doing this summer. And we'll start with that right after the meeting today. So be there, be square. Thanks.
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate that. We, as you heard the discussion with that, I think there's been a lot of interest in doing things both locally and projects and how we can be more inclusive in our community. One of those was a project that Steve brought up last week. And Steve, would you have an update for us on our project that you and Denny have been working on?
Yes, and thank you. So Jim Christian and Denny and I had the opportunity to help well, let me just say, an elderly retired Korean war vet. So knowing that he served in Korea probably gives you a little bit of the idea of his age. Very grateful person, very particular about what he likes. But anyway, Denny took the bull by the horns and purchased the lumber and all the hardware and all that, and constructed panels and a gate in his garage. And we went out to Roger's house a couple of times. And then yesterday we were able to, with Jim Christian really had some engineering skills to figure out how to make this all work, and I certainly didn't have those skills. So if you have a chance to look at our club's Facebook page, I posted some photos and some comments about that. Oh, thank you. Look at that.
There you go.
So it was actually a lot of fun, and I know the three of us felt honored to be able to help Roger. And as a nice little treat, he gave us each a jar of homemade raspberry preserves that he makes and grows the raspberries himself. So he was very grateful.
Well, who says there's not any reward for altruism these days, huh?
There you go.
Awesome. That's great. Well, that's wonderful. Are there any other steps left that need to be done, or?
Denny, do you want to talk about what's left? There's not a lot left, but there's a little bit.
We just have to drag Jim into hanging up the last section of fence, and we will have it all done. I got the fence section built in my trunk.
In your trunk. Well, that's awesome. That's great. What a nice little project. I'm sure Roger was quite pleased. And it also says if you have any questions on remodeling and construction, we need to talk to Jim Christian more frequently, I guess. So I think kudos to all of you. That was a kind of very direct and a nice hit to be able to do that. So very good. I did want to back up just a little bit. Those of you that have been following or knowing Shar Denhart, her husband had been in the hospital recently for some emergency surgery. We're pleased to announce that he is doing better. He is out. So if you want to send any kind of best wishes and information along, I'm sure Shar would greatly appreciate that. So. Let's see, is Rachel with us this morning? I know she's here. I was going to have Rachel update us on some of the projects that are going on with South Metro Networking, if you'd like.
Yeah, I can give some updates. I think, try and make them quick. We've been up to a lot of stuff. I think with the recent events going on, our club has really hit the ground running, trying to take action as Rotarians do, and seeing that the four-way test is more applicable now than ever. Some of the things we've been up to is we jumped in and helped clean some streets. We help with some of our members help with the Open Doors recent food drive. There was an overwhelming amount of donations being brought in, which is so cool to see. And we jumped in and helped with some of that and distributing some of that stuff. And the Open Door couldn't even hold all this stuff, so it was being brought to other places in Egan for storage. And so we help with some of those endeavors. We had our last club meeting was a conversation about equity and racial justice. And we've also started a book club featuring books along those same lines. So we've been kind of doing a lot recently in that regard, and looking and working with other community partners in the cities for relief. If anyone would like to look for some organizations to personally donate to it, for folks that maybe aren't leaving the house and still want to contribute and stuff, I've made like a 15-some page document of places that are looking for help and needing help right now. So I would be happy to share that. And then coming up, we have this month, we are mask making for Lvl Cares. We are also, again, helping with Open Door. We're going to do some of their community gardening. And I welcome any Rotarian who wants to come join us and participate in any of that with us. You're more than welcome to come. And then in July, because the new year is starting, we're also transitioning, and so for our leadership team. And if you haven't heard, next year's president is our very own road director and Lakeville Rotarian, Adam. So if you also want to join us, we'll be doing a Zoom meeting then for transition in leadership, and you can hear about our goals for the next year as well for our July 14th meeting.
Very well done. You've taken lessons from Richard, I can see. Very concise. I would just point out I believe the opportunity to work with the gardening, that's even coming up this Saturday, right? You have, or did I misread that? The 13th?
So, yeah, Open Door has, they've got the 13th and the 27th from 9 to 11. I put them both on there so our folks can go to either of them and are aware of the opportunities, but it sounds like more of us are planning to do the 27th. But the 13th is also an option, but the 27th is more so.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that update, and great job on all the different projects that you're working on. You guys really, like you said, really kind of hit the ground running with that. So good job. So with that, did I miss any other announcements anybody has before we get to our speaker this morning? Well, if they do, please please send me or Kathy a note, and we'll get on before we end of the meeting. So Jason, that was a pretty good segue. Jason Viana is our speaker this morning. He's the executive director of the Open Door. As most of you probably have read on the newsletter, he's led hunger and relief organization since 2016, and he had 20 years of work in the nonprofit sector, most recently with American Red Cross, as we know here in Minnesota. He hails from the Deep South. He lives in Burnsville with his two sons, Eli and Noah. So with that, Jason, take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Ken. And thank you, Rachel, for all the help your club is giving us. Yeah, there's a whole lot going on. And I'm really happy to be with you this morning. And so I'm not sure how familiar folks are with the Open Door. So I'm going to spend just a little bit of time resetting who the Open Door is in case you haven't heard of us. And then I'll talk a bit about our response to the coronavirus, which is obviously, you've referenced multiple times this morning, and some exciting things we've got coming up in Lakeville. And so if you're not familiar with the Open Door, we are just over 10 years old. Our mission is to end local hunger through access to healthy food. Healthy food's a key component to that. I think we all learned in elementary school that if you eat better, you do better. I know we don't all follow that, myself included, as well as we could, but when the Open Door started, we started in a closet in a church in Eagan because there was no food support. And since then, we've grown to become the largest and arguably most creative food shelf in Dakota County, and one of the most creative in the state. We've grown, again, we'll talk about life before March, and then we'll talk about what's happened after. In a normal month, we've grown to feeding around 7,000 people every month. And we do that through a combination of programs, which I'll walk through. We started, the whole organization was built around two simple concepts, and that was health and dignity. I don't think anyone likes asking for help, and so we've kind of done everything we can to make sure that healthy food is easy to get for folks. And that started in Eagan. But as many of you know, there was a food shelf down around Holyoke in Lakeville, which existed well before the Open Door. It was started by Bob Roll, anyone that knows him, one of the best humans ever to walk the earth, a committed group of community members in Lakeville. And early in our existence, that group, they'd been affiliated with another organization, and they came to us to see if we could help. And we did. And having the Lakeville food shelf join the Open Door really changed the path of our organization. It taught us, one, that we needed to think sometimes outside of Eagan, because there's a lot of unmet needs in the community. And so, that food shelf closed its physical location, but it transformed into our mobile food shelf, which I'll talk about more in a minute. But the whole idea, since we began, is get healthy food to people in the easiest way that we can, in the most dignified way. And for us, a lot of dignity was about choice. And so we were one of the first food shelves in Minnesota to allow clients to make their own choices and to emphasize fresh and perishable food. From the early days, over 70% of our shelves have been dedicated to meat, eggs, dairy, fruits, vegetables. We're just very aware that there's such a relationship between one's income and one's health, and so much of that has to do with access to healthy food. I mean, even as recently as last year, Dakota County did a health assessment, and access to healthy food is a top 5 concern in the county. And so we've grown. And so again, in a normal time, whatever that is, we would feed about 7,000 people a month through a combination of programs. So in Eagan, where it all started, we call our Come and Get It, or our bricks and mortar food shelf. And that's a place where people used to come inside and make their own choices. Even during coronavirus, we've been able to modify to allow for safety and distancing, but still giving folks a modified choice. I should make a video of the conversation that goes on using whiteboards and hand signals so folks can choose some of the perishable items that they want. But outside of the Eagan Pantry, we also, as Rachel mentioned, we have now 11 community gardens where our clients are offered plots to grow their own food. And so I think now we have over 250 plots available that will grow probably 25,000 pounds of fresh produce this year. Most of our garden clients let us know that during the growing season, they don't need the food shelf, and that is absolutely music to our ears. One of the things we learned when we were in Lakeville was, there are other food shelves that you can get to. The problem is in the suburbs, transportation is a huge barrier. And so we started building our mobile pantry. It's really a mobile food program now. And we're the only mobile food program in Dakota County. But, one of the greatest ways to encapsulate this actually happened in Lakeville. We've had a mobile site at Cross of Christ down on Holyoke where folks can come and get food. And we have there's two of the sweetest ladies that live at Windsor Plaza, Jeannie and Ida. And so Jeannie and Ida would walk over to Cross of Christ. If you've been down to Holyoke, that's a pretty easy walk. I mean, it's flat, good repair. And they would come over for 3 years. They got to know our volunteers and our staff. And one day, I think it was Jeannie broke her hip. Thankfully not coming to see us, but she did. And our volunteer, Tom, said, I'm taking Jeannie her food. We don't do individual home delivery, but we did for Jeannie. And we went into her building and we realized there were a ton of residents in that building asking us, you bring food? And we're like, yeah, we're 3 blocks away. And they're standing there in their, with their walker or in their wheelchair going, I might make it over there, but there's no way I'm bringing anything back. And so, we're 3 blocks away from their building, and we decided to add them as a mobile delivery spot. We set up a food shelf in their community room, and we thought it'd probably be 10, 15 people. Over 40 people in that building came down, and it's become one of our greatest sites. But it's such a reminder to us, we were 3 blocks away. And whether it's senior citizens, whether it's an elementary school, or whether it's a low-income neighborhood, getting food closer to people's homes is somewhere we ought to be focusing. And so we do mobile in several different ways, but the demand for it has been remarkable. So this program has grown, as you can see, over 28 sites in 2019, and that's already out of date because a lot of the stuff we've done after COVID. But there's just no absence of unmet need in our community in Dakota County. And so just a sample of the places that we go. This is also not completely up to date because maps are hard to make. But we've got sites from, we have 5 places in Lakeville where we make fresh and healthy food available, 3 downtown near Holyoke, over by the restored thrift store. We've got a senior building as well as a pop-up produce giveaway. And we have a church over on Cedar right up near the border. But we go all the way up to the Dakota County Northern Service Center in West St. Paul. And so one of the most common questions I get is, how do you figure out where you're going to go? We work with community leaders, whether it's a church or a school district, to help us identify pockets of concentrated low-income individuals, and we work with them, and if there's an interest, we go and do our best to make food available. Again, that's a really broad overview of what we're doing, but we've been filling unmet needs since we started. I tell people we've grown at that time to feed 7,000 people a month, and it's super important to realize that we're not putting other food shelves out of business. As we've grown and found ways to serve more folks, that's just because in Dakota County, in the suburbs, there wasn't enough support. A lot of people don't realize that for the first time in the history of our country, there are more people in poverty in the suburbs than there are in the urban core. And the suburbs present a little bit different challenge in hunger relief. And we didn't set out to put ourselves on the leading edge of suburban hunger, but that's kind of how we've gone. So much of things we get credit for being creative on really just comes from listening to our clients and trying to figure out how do we make things easier for them. A lot of people don't realize that 1 out of 3 children eligible for free or reduced lunch in the entire country now live in the suburbs. And when I talk with folks, and obviously I can't see your responses, that's usually a very surprising aspect for folks that live in the suburbs. And so, we're not the only food shelf anywhere. 360 Communities, I know Lori's in this club, they do tremendous work. Neighbors does tremendous work. So we try to work around them and find the gaps and do more. And so this fancy graphic is to really help people understand that before the coronavirus, if you had a gauge on our emergency food system, we were already at capacity. You know, I talk with Jeff at 360 and with our partners in food shelves. None of us had sitting around twiddling our thumbs. We were already full. And so when you have, I think, 750,000 people file for unemployment in the state since March 15th, we were faced with a really interesting challenge of what do we do now? I mean, coronavirus took everyone by surprise. And obviously our first steps were making sure that our volunteers and our clients could be safe in their interactions. But there were also a whole lot more people that needed help than had needed help before. And so with the help of Rotarians, who we have a great relationship with the both Egan clubs, Apple Valley Club, been very helpful with us, and this club stepped up to help. We tried to come up with some new ways to help folks. And so we started these giant drive-through food distributions. And the pictures on this one are from our first one at the MBTA parking ramp in Apple Valley. We were looking for a place with shelter and a giant parking lot so we could spread volunteers out and handle a large group of cars. And so we've now done 5 of these events. We're doing one every Monday right now around the county. And you can see the number of partners it's taken to pull one off. We do one in Egan, one in Apple Valley. We've done one in Lakeville. We have another one coming up in a couple of weeks. And we've done one in West St. Paul. And these were designed to make produce. This is 8 to 10 varieties of produce with milk and eggs available to anyone that needed it. And I will tell you that we have seen anywhere from 300 vehicles to almost 500 vehicles come through. And the really remarkable thing about it is that 70-ish% of the folks that have come to these drive-through food shelves have never used the open door or a food shelf before. And so some of you may have been at the one in Lakeville, but I did bring just a quick glance because it's hard to imagine what this looks like. So this is kind of a time-lapse video of how we spread out volunteers. Folks come through, open up their trunks, and we put 8 to 10 varieties of produce in there. Everyone is safe, but we're also able to get a lot of food out to a lot of folks. And so special shout out to All Saints Catholic Church for hosting this in Lakeville. And it took over 50 volunteers to pull this off in 2 shifts. And so it's remarkable what the community was able to do coming together. But the $5,000 gift your club just gave to us went directly to support this and our other coronavirus response efforts. And so, let's see, just to give you a brief result, I talked a lot about what happened before COVID. And so we were feeding around 7,000 people a month. Well, since COVID, thanks to a wonderful response from the community, we've been in a position to try to do more. And so 7,000 people a month was our normal. The first 30 days of the coronavirus, we served nearly 10,000 people. In the month of April, we were able to serve just over 12,000 folks. And we just got our preliminary results for May. And thanks to these giant drive-through food shelves that we've been doing, we were able to get fresh and healthy food for more than 18,000 people in Dakota County in the month of May, which is nuts. That's way more than we've ever done. But we've done that because people have helped. But some of these ways here, we doubled our food purchases, probably more than that. We started our mobile lunchbox program early, which I'll talk about more in a moment. We've been working with school districts, specifically 196, to get food into neighborhoods where it's needed directly to students. We signed a temporary lease to double a space for our mobile pantry in Apple Valley. We've been able to lease larger trucks. We immediately set up 4 drive-through school distributions at elementary schools in 191, working with staff and teachers there to get food directly into the hands of the families that needed it. We built our 11th garden in Burnsville. And one of the weird parts of COVID is we've had to turn over our entire volunteer roster. We allowed our volunteers to continue if they chose, but most of our volunteers were above 65 years old in a high-risk category, so many of them stepped back. But we've had over 300 new volunteers step forward from the community, and we've put them all to work. And so it's been remarkable to see what our team has done with the help of Rotary clubs and churches and individuals stepping up. Because I don't know how you think about coronavirus. I see the impact of this lasting potentially the next year. And so we're doing everything we can to position ourselves to serve more people as it's needed. And so that's a brief overview of our response to COVID, because that includes all the stuff we were normally doing and the new stuff that we've been able to do. So there's one other program that I want to talk about briefly, and that's our mobile lunchbox program. And the mobile lunchbox has been around, I think, for 6 years. A real simple idea behind a mobile lunchbox. We pick up lunches, we put them in a vehicle, and then we take them directly into neighborhoods that school districts help us identify. And we've been tinkering with this program. If you haven't figured out the open door, we don't have everything figured out. We are very responsive, and we're just trying. There's a lot of trial and error that goes on. Mobile lunchbox is something we've been trying to get right for a while. And last year was our most successful year. We served 3,000 meals, which felt like a tremendous accomplishment. But I think we figured out a model that's going to help improve this year. We started in Egan. We added School District 191. We've worked with them for about 3 years. We started working with School District 196 2 years ago. And I am thrilled to share that this year, we're going to be working in Lakeville. So we are bringing the mobile lunchbox to 5 neighborhoods in Lakeville. We've been working with representatives from the school district to identify the neighborhoods. And starting June 22nd, we'll be delivering in Lakeville to 5 different locations, 5 days a week. And so our overall program for the lunchbox this year, we had 5 sites total last year. This year, we're going to have 17 neighborhoods where we're going directly with school lunches 5 days a week. And while we did 3,000 meals last year, we expect we're going to do over 30,000 meals this year. And that's just because we've gotten smarter about how we're doing it. The school districts have learned more of how to help. And we look forward to working with Lakeville more. Now, the tricky part of going into Lakeville this year, and if you want to have me back to talk about the challenges of federal support for affluent areas, we can have a whole other conversation. But usually the way our program works is we work with the school district, with their kitchens, and we pick up meals directly from staffs that are already working, and we take them to the neighborhoods. Well, in Lakeville this summer, there are no kitchens open. And, so we built the infrastructure, we'd fixed the model. But Ken, your club president, along with Jean and Krista from the chamber, we've been talking about this for several months, Ken, a few weeks. How can we get these meals to families in Lakeville without the school kitchens? And, we've been in conversations with several of our local restaurant partners. I can't share them yet because it's not 100% confirmed. But this year, we're going to raise money and buy meals directly from restaurants in Lakeville and take them to kids in neighborhoods. And 2 days a week, All Saints Catholic Church is going to open up their kitchen and prepare over 250 meals a day that we can pick up. And so I'm thrilled to be able to share that with your club. I haven't shared that with anyone outside of the organization yet, so congratulations for getting to learn first. But I can't thank Ken and Jean and Krista enough for their work and rounding up partners and helping us figure this out. So with every new exciting thing, my big ask for this group, and we'll ask the whole community, we're going to need 800 snack packs every week to give to kids as we're delivering meals. And so I can send information to the club later on, but if people are looking for things to do, things to donate locally, we have a whole list on our website of things that we'll need. And if you want to have a group put together a snack pack, you certainly can. Or you can just donate items in bulk. And we have volunteers and AmeriCorps members that will put them together and get them to where they need to be. Lastly, as I mentioned, we do have another drive-through food shelf coming up in Lakeville. All Saints was generous to host us. School district folks have let us know that Eastview Elementary School is closer to a lot of the families that needed it. So feedback said, please move it a bit. So we're moving to Eastview Elementary School. We're going to need 50 volunteers that day, 20, 25 in a shift. Hopefully you saw from the video, we spread folks out. So if you can come out, we certainly would appreciate it. But that's a lot of information that I just threw at you. So I think that ends the part that I'm going to drown you with, and I will stop. And I'm not sure which method you use to take questions, but I will stop sharing my screen and see if we can answer questions. So Ken, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, thanks, Jason, and appreciate that that overview. And I think you've highlighted a number of things, and that's great news about the Lakeville mobile lunch box program this summer. That's really good. we have a couple of questions coming in on the chat, so we'll go with those. And then if anybody else has anything, I see Judy Kelleher, you've got your hand raised. So why don't we start with the questions we have on? Can you see those, Jason? Can you respond to those?
Yeah, yes, sir, I will. I see them now that I'm not sharing my screen. One, Cheryl, yeah, Lakeville Chamber ambassadors certainly came over and helped at Windsor Plaza. They got to see our work firsthand. Thank you so much for that. Mayor Doug, I'm surprised by the statement there are more people in poverty in the suburbs than the core. Yes, I can certainly explore that more fully. That's a national statistic. That is based on a 2016 study that looked at the entire nation. We find that, I don't have Dakota County specific information about comparing it to Hennepin County, but I do have Dakota County specific information about the levels of poverty. And so, well, here, just real quick, I will, you know, and I'm trying to do this quickly. So the poverty line in Dakota County, there are 33,000 people in Dakota County that live below the federal poverty line. The federal poverty line, I think, is a really bad measure of who's in poverty. The poverty line for the United States comes out, if you had 2 people in a household working full time, they need to make $6 an hour to be at the poverty line. And we know from Dakota County officials that to live in Dakota County and meet your basic needs, you need to make an average of $15 an hour with 2 grown-ups working in your house. We know that in Dakota County, before the coronavirus, there were give or take 80,000 people who do not meet the threshold for $15 an hour. So I know that in Dakota County, there's probably between 70 and 80,000 people that have a challenge meeting their monthly income. And so that's the quickest answer I can give to that. Is there any
question? Yeah, Jason, let me, if I can just comment on that quickly.
Please, go ahead.
So I appreciate those statistics. I'm wondering if you are aware that the county has actually done some work, and we've drilled down on that into the specific cities. And so there is that information that it's probably a bit dated, but it's helpful as we look at the complexion of who we are as a city, whether it's our diversity or whether it's economic issues or whatever. So some of that does exist out there. So I just wanted to ensure that you might be aware of that.
Yeah, I'd love to read a drill down. I mean, I know that Lakeville has a very low poverty rate. You know, even one of the challenges of getting the lunchbox into Lakeville is federal programs for schools are based on free and reduced lunch percentages. I think the percentage for Lakeville is 10%, which is tremendous. It's great that there's not a lot of need, but sometimes, and this is one of the challenges of the suburbs, if you don't have a great percentage of need, there's also not a lot of programs to support those kids. And so, yeah, I'll follow up with you after. I'd love to see some of those stats. And I see your other question.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And I just want to add a comment. I'm appreciative that you folks have engaged Lakeville in your service area, and I know that it's very helpful for people. And I did stop up at the produce distribution at All Saints. Thanks for the invitation to do that. And it's pretty well-run operation. So I just wanted to say thank you for that and for your services to our community. And I did notice on the chat that my dear friend Bob Bayer and Rotarian said that I missed a response to a question that I had. And so you don't need to repeat yourself again. But I apologize. I've been multitasking. I have a phone call with the governor in a little bit with a few other mayors. So I'm trying to get myself ready for that. So my apologies.
Oh, no apologies.
My apologies, Mr. Bayer.
I think we're all juggling a whole bunch of stuff, but I see Bob did ask a question about, do we screen people in need for groceries? And we do not screen folks, especially these drive-through distributions. We ask where folks live, how many people in their household, and if they've been before. At our normal, quote unquote, pre-COVID, we do an intake with families. We ask them to self-disclose their need, but we don't do any steps to verify it. We take people at their word. And honestly, if you came and you weren't in technically in a need situation on paper, but you lost your job and you needed help, we try to make it as easy as we possibly can. All right, I think that's all the questions in the chat. So I'll open it up to others.
We have Judy Kelleher who has her hand up.
Good morning. Jason, I am on the Board of Education and here in Lakeville area schools. And so just a quick comment about the free and reduced lunch piece. Free and reduced lunches is determined by families that apply and then get accepted. And so the one thing that we know, even though our number looks very low, and we do know we have families that don't apply that meet that threshold as well. So the need is greater than what the numbers show. But you mentioned working with our school district, and you mentioned specifically distributing in Lakeville, but our school district spans 2 counties, 3 cities, and 3 townships. Are you expanding into all of the areas of our school district? Because I just saw it posted the other day on Facebook that you're working with us. Are you going to across all of our district or just in the Lakeville?
Well, right now we're working in 5 specific neighborhoods identified by
the school district?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think most of those are in Lakeville, but we're certainly open to figuring out how we can expand the footprint. So yeah, we're certainly open to the conversation. Thank you for sharing that.
So can I just ask another question? I believe Superintendent Bauman, if you're out there, I'm just curious from the school district if you know if they're what those neighborhoods are.
I do know, I don't have the list in front of me. I do know that we have 5 with a desire to expand, and we're working with Jason and his team to do exactly that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Jason?
Hey, Jason, this is Dan. Just a quick question for you. When you're dealing with perishable food items, I'm just curious how logistically that works and how you've been able to kind of manage inventory and reduce spoilage as best as you can. And then in the event that something does spoil, kind of what happens to that food? It's just more of a curiosity for me.
A great question. So much of our work is logistics. And so on a normal day, a lot of our perishable food comes from grocery stores. We go and rescue it. We sort it. The stuff that's bad, which is usually somewhere between 10 and 20%, goes into the compost bin. And the stuff that's good goes out that day. Now, these larger distributions, we're working with Second Harvest to bring in 18 to 20 pallets, usually of farm fresh produce. And so the spoilage rate's really low. But anything that's bad, if we can, we get it into a compost. And if we not, unfortunately, it goes into the bin. And thanks for dressing up and making me feel bad.
We're always there to help, Jason. I think we have a couple other questions on the chat line there if you want to take a look at those.
Dates and locations that we can help with food distribution. I think the easiest way for me to answer that, Cheryl, is I can send information to Ken that he can share with the club. You know, we've got that one specific date. We're going to need a ton of volunteers. But for the mobile lunchbox program, we're going to need at least 2 volunteers a day, every day for 10 weeks. And so there's an opportunity for that as well. One of the things I didn't mention and should have, you know, I know Rachel talked about the folks we're going to help with. You know, we have 11 gardens, and we don't have any in Lakeville. And so if your club is looking for a project next spring, I would welcome help figuring out where we can put a community garden that's close to folks that need it and building one. And then there'd be more volunteer opportunities right here in Lakeville.
Good point, Jason. Good point. Yeah, I think there used to be one, I think, in the very far south part of the city. I can't remember timing, but I think that it's been a while since that's been there. It would be a good project to take on. One question I had, you know, obviously going from 7,000, you know, to 18,000, that's a pretty rapid acceleration in a very short period of time. And with some of the food challenges that we saw, you know, kind of at the peak of coronavirus a few weeks, have you experienced any issues with your supply chain in terms of being able to access food, even if you're paying for it?
Early on, yes, without question, there were challenges to access, and that's just, the supply chain had to get itself worked out. Also in the middle of that, Second Harvest, and I went to follow with them, they moved their locations like the first week of April. So right as this stuff was kicking off. So there was a brief interruption, but I mean, it's all been figured out now, and there's still specific items that we run into shortages on, but overall, it's remarkable what food producers and farmers and truckers have been able to do, because they've kept things moving pretty well.
Yeah, I've noticed. I happened to see. I came across. I forget a couple weeks ago, because of all of the overage supply in dairy. There was a Rotary Club in some part of the country was doing a milk giveaway. So you got in some segments you've got too much supply, and in other segments they don't have enough. So it's really kind of a mixed bag in that respect.
Yeah, we frequently say that if, the challenge of our work is we don't know what we're going to get every day when we go to grocery stores and for food drives. If we could ever get supply and demand to meet, it would be wonderful. But we have days we don't have room to put things in fridges, and we have days we don't have enough to hand out. So I feel you.
Yeah, you have to be very flexible in your capacity planning, it sounds like. Well, any more questions from anyone for Jason? I really appreciate you taking the time, Jason. I know you got a lot of things going on this morning, but I think it was very productive, and I think we have a much better appreciation for your footprint and your extent. And I see questions coming in about dates and times and who is wants to work for volunteers. We'll get that out. I'll get with, if you get the information, Kathy, and I'll get that out to the club members, and we can do a sign up and feed that back to you. So anyway, again, thanks for all your work. Thanks for your service. We appreciate you coming in and sharing with us this morning. What a really good operation you've kind of put together and gone forward, both now and going forward, looking forward into the future. One of the things we do every year is when we have a speaker come in, we choose at the beginning of the year organization a charity that we would like to contribute to. So on your behalf, we'll make a contribution to 360 Communities, commemorating your visit here this morning. So thanks again, Jason. We look forward to working with you even more closely as we go forward.
Thank you all so much. And listen, everyone on the call, thanks for being in Rotary. You people do such remarkable work. I know you're the key to the change we need. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Jason. Take care. And as I said, for those of you that are interested specifically in this particular project, we'll get the details out and we'll keep that updated as we go forth. Right, Kathy? Okay. So one other quick announcement. You probably saw that the 2020 Rotary Virtual Convention is coming up. This is in place of going to Hawaii this year. So take a look at that. I think the website has got the detail, but it'll be from 6/20 to June 26th. So just another opportunity to kind of look at information and involvement there. So we are at that time for Happy Dollars. Anybody happy this morning? Yes, Tom.
Yeah, well, I suppose I'm happy. My wife has written 3 books on over the years on immigration and family histories and that, and so she really wanted us to write a biography. I always thought nobody'd be interesting. We're too boring. But some friends urged me to write one, so we just finished our 540-page biography. And I'm amazed several people have wanted to read the soft copy, and we sold out the first printing. So,
really,
what can I say?
You sell yourself short, Tom.
A good way to go to put yourself to sleep at night.
Well, if you have too many copies left, you can start marketing it in the evening as a cure for insomnia. Or
That's
insomnia.
right. That's what it'll be good for.
Well, I think that's amazing. What'd you say, 540 pages?
Yeah, 540 pages.
That's amazing. So the question that comes to mind is, since we are Rotarians, is there a Rotarian Club discount? And can we get autographed copies if we give an extra donation to the foundation?
Well, certainly you can get autograph copies, and I'll certainly sell them at cost, but I don't really think that you'd find it very interesting.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Mr. President,
Yes.
This is Carl. I have a happy dollar this morning. Those of us who live south of the river have some really excellent school districts that serve our families. And I want to extend a shout out this morning to all of those folks who sort of reimagined teaching and learning over the past several months and had to do so really on the fly. That was a remarkable achievement when you think about it, especially from the traditional point of view of how our schools have operated in the past. And in particular, I want to give a shout out to Superintendent Bauman and Judy Kelleher and the Lakeville Board for their leadership in putting those plans together for our students and families. And everyone who worked in the school district, certainly our teachers and support staff, but also the custodians and maintenance folks, the food service workers, the bus drivers. There's been a terrific amount of support and cooperation to make our community what it is, and also what it has been over the most recent months. I know, for example, that all districts struggled with the whole issue of commencement recently. What are we going to do to celebrate our seniors? And I thought our district did a great job within the constraints that they had to work with in making that a meaningful experience for families in a special way. So my heart goes out to them for all they had to work with. And a final comment on this happy dollar. I've simply observed in the past several months, maybe it was there all the time, but it just became more clear to me, this notion of cooperation and pulling together that I've seen in our community, from the faith community, all our first responders, city government, Mayor Anderson and Justin Miller, and all of the folks working together with our schools in a collaborative effort to make it happen for our students and families. So kudos to all of you, and thanks for all you've done.
Well, thank you, Carl. I don't think anybody could have said that any more eloquently and touched more than what's in our hearts. Of all the things that have changed because of coronavirus, I mean, we're all living in a new world and a new reality. But certainly, education and how education gets delivered, and how it is sustained. As you said, I think it's undergone one of the most amazing transitions. And like you said, it was all done on the fly. There may have been some ideas about what we could do, but all of a sudden the switch was flipped and we were right on it. And kudos to you for bringing that up and for sharing that with everybody.
Ken, this is Judy Kelleher. I just need to make one quick comment. So I want to give credit where credit is due, and the credit all goes to our superintendent and our school staff. The leadership that they showed through this was incredible. And to be honest with you, our board stepped back and they took the lead on all of this. And so although I appreciate the recognition of the board's role was very minimal in all of this, getting the regular updates and just watching a really powerful and successful transition happen within our district. So the praise really goes to our staff and to our superintendent.
Well, thank you, Judy. I think, as Carl pointed out, though, I mean, this really is a time where that phrase about it takes a village. I mean, everybody is contributing. So I am too moved about seeing the cooperation and at a lot of different levels. But thank you for that, Judy. Appreciate you sharing that. Any other happy dollars this morning?
I know everyone's been anxious to hear the sailing report.
Ah, yes, the sailing report. What would summer be without the sailing report?
That's right. There's been no sailing yet, but this weekend the sailboats will go out, and I'll have a sailing report next week.
We will look forward to it. Thank you, Clint. Mr. Mayor, anything that you have additional to share before you run off to your phone call?
Not really this morning, Mr. President. All is well in the city of Lakeville. Thank you.
Good. We always like to hear that. And I forgot to ask Ken Whitworth, do we have any plans for any additional 501s coming up, or is that changing, kind of seeing what the tea leaves are going to tell us here in a few weeks?
Yeah, I was kind of waiting to see what opens up here, but I think we're still limited to 6 at a table, so that's probably not going to happen. And tentatively it put something out for this week, but then suddenly it was Tuesday, Wednesday. I went, oops. Maybe we'll go with I'll try to remember to send something out to Kathy, and so we'll get it out. So for next week, I'll be hanging out at my cabin, but that'll be okay. It'll be even a better 501.
Well, you'll have a better perspective and vantage point. Let's put it that way, right?
Yes.
Well, good. Well, just for those that were not on the call or when we were talking about this at the beginning of the meeting this morning, we are, Kathy and I are working on looking at brackets to see when we can get in for an in-person meeting. Just as a reminder, next week is the board meeting on next Wednesday. We've tentatively asked if there's a possibility that we could get for a live meeting. My impression is, Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's probably going to be a push. But there could be a possibility we might get in at the end of the month. If not, we are still scheduled to resume in-person meetings on July 9th, since we're not meeting the week of the 4th. So all I would say is we will keep you posted. Stay tuned. Look at your email. Keep up with the website, and we'll certainly keep everybody informed. So with that, a reminder that we do have the Taste of Lakeville quick meeting afterwards. Right, Richard?
Yeah, be there, be square, and we'll keep it short and sweet. I appreciate you being able to attend.
Awesome. We will do that. So with that, we will go to the four-way test, as we always do, as we're always reminded as Rotarians of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Have a great weekend.